Hi everyone, so today I'll be talking about Luckin Coffee. This is an OTC stock and the stock ticker is LKNCY. So I've been seeing a lot more news article on Luckin Coffee recently. And if you follow the story of Luckin Coffee, you will know that there are a lot of speculation on when will Luckin Coffee release and come back into the market. So in today's video, I will be sharing with you my views and my thoughts on when will Luckin Coffee release. We'll also be looking at the timeline of Luckin Coffee, and we'll also be looking at the chart to see how has the shares been performing over the past few months. So this is one of the latest news that I've read on Luckin Coffee. If Hertz can come back, why not Luckin Coffee? So this article is just talking about Luckin Coffee still appealing to investors, and if potential new investors are willing to look beyond the past and accept Luckin Coffee again. So before we begin, I'd like to highlight that I'm not a professional financial advisor, and this video is purely my own research, my own analysis, and I'm just sharing my views with everyone of you who are interested in Luckin Coffee. So now this is a timeline of Luckin Coffee, and we can see that the company was founded in January 2018 by Luckin and Qianziya. The company IPO in Nasdaq at $17 a share in May 2019. In February 2020, right, Muddy Water issued a report accusing Luckin of fabricating their revenue, and then they short Luckin Coffee. In April 2020, the company announced that they did indeed fabricated their sales transaction, and the share price fell by 81%. And in June 2020, the company delisted from Nasdaq. In February 2021, the company filed for bankruptcy. In April 2021, the company received additional fundings from investors and hired a new auditor. And in June 2021, they complete their restructuring of support agreement with the holders of convertible senior notes, and they also released their fourth quarter 2019 audited financial results. So just bear in mind this April 2021, whereby they hire a new auditor, and then what happened in June 2021. So why did I highlight April 2021? Okay, so this is information that I obtained from the Momo platform. So ever since April 2020, you can see that once the company has announced that they fabricated their sales transaction, there was actually a major sell-off. But in 2021 April, which is the extreme right side of the chart, you can see that someone has been acquiring the company's shares, and if we scroll down, it's none other than the two founders of Luckin Coffee, Luckin and Qianziya, and in total they purchased close to 48 millions of Luckin Coffee share price in April 2021. And then you also know that based on my timeline, in June, right, the company released their audited financials for 2019, which pushed up the share price. So just solely based on the fact that they bought so much of the company's shares in April 2021, and then in June they actually released the news. I think that my views are that the founders know that the share price will be going up. They know that once the financials are going to be released, the share price of Luckin Coffee will go up higher, and indeed it did. So the next step for Luckin Coffee will be to release its 2020 audited financials. And normally for a financial year ended December, right, these are normally signed off around March to May. So I believe that the 2020 financials should be ready anytime. And just solely looking at the timeline of Luckin Coffee, don't you think that they are moving very, very fast like a bullet train? So it's about a matter of time when they want to release the financials. So now let's discuss what will Luckin Coffee consider before they release in the market. So the first off is the market sentiments. And the current market sentiment doesn't look good for Chinese stock at all, with all the trade tensions that are going on with US and China. So last Friday, we saw a news that the Chinese government is asking all the Chinese educational company, mostly these are stocks, these companies are involved in providing tuition and enrichment classes in China to students to become non-profit organizations. And this news actually results in driving down the share price of TAL, EDU, and GoTo, falling around 50 to 60%. And the common theme with these stocks are that they are listed in US, so there is a contagion effect, and investors are worried about China's stocks listed in US. So first off, the current market sentiments is not very good for Chinese stocks, especially those that are listed in the US. And in the short term, I don't think the situation is going to improve significantly for both China and US. So for Luckin Coffee management, right, if they are thinking of relisting their shares, especially in the US market, I think they will take into consideration the market sentiments, and they will also need to think whether the regulators are okay with them listing in the US stock market instead of Hong Kong or Shanghai. So these are some of the considerations that they will take, they will bear in mind when they're planning their releasing. So the second point is the investors' sentiment. What do I mean by investor sentiment? It's just that in general, I feel that a lot of foreign investors, they have a very negative opinion on Chinese stocks, and they still view Chinese stocks as rather shady and dishonest. And look at the recent TT IPO scandal. Even with such a big giant in China, we can see that this scandal has resulted in people bringing back their attention on Luckin Coffee and reinforcing the views that Chinese companies are shady. So this video on TT and Jim Cramer was made before TT IPO, whereby he actually recommend investors to buy into TT, and he actually stated that if you want to speculate on a Chinese IPO, you got my blessing to bet on TT. I would try to get as many shares as you can. So in the end, what happened, we all know. And then TT share price, TT actually IPO at around 16, and now it's trading at around $8. So the share price fell by 50%. So once again, this recent TT IPO scandal is just reminding consumer of how shady Chinese company can be for both the big one and the small one. So again, if I'm Luckin Coffee management, I will also consider all these negative investor sentiments into consideration and think whether is this a good time in the short term, is this a good time to release. So my next point is you need to have a good story to sell. It means that what I meant is that if a company is going to IPO, they're going to issue more shares, they're going to release. Basically, they just want our money, right? They need to have a good story to convince us to part with our money and invest with them. So for Luckin Coffee, when they IPO in 2019, we, or us investors, when we invest in Luckin, we see them as the fastest growing coffee network in China, and that their figures were very impressive, and coffee drinking, the culture of coffee drinking is still at its infancy. And at the point in time, there weren't many competitors, and mainly we're comparing between Starbucks and Luckin Coffee. But that was 2019. Now it's 2021. Fast forward to 3 years. So we are seeing there are more competitors in the market. We have Manner Coffee, which is backed by ByteDance. We have Nayuki, which recently IPO in Hong Kong. We have Haiti, and internationally we have Starbucks. So for Luckin Coffee to convince us to come back to them, right, they need to have an edge over these competitors. Why should we buy into Luckin Coffee and not and not like Haiti or Nayuki, which recently just IPO? Why should we buy into Luckin Coffee? So other than the fact that they are actually other than the fact that they seem to be trading at a discount, they also need to show us that they have something. And my guess, this is just my guess, is that they need to show that they are not a loss-making company and they are generating profit. So this is the audited financials for 2019. We can see that for the year 2019, their net revenue actually increased significantly, but at the same time, their net loss also widened as a result of increase in their store rental, increase in their marketing campaigns. So definitely, if they were going to IPO, right? Sorry, if they were going to release, then if they were going to use the 2020 financials, I don't think that the financials for 2020 will be better than 2019. Why do I say that? Firstly, 2020 was also the year whereby everyone in the world, in the whole world, was hit by COVID. China, although they recover significantly faster than the rest of the world, they are also no doubt affected by the COVID. And we don't have the Luckin Coffee 2020 audited financials, but maybe we can take a look at the Starbucks. How has Starbucks been performed in 2020 in China, to have an idea, have an estimation on how is this COVID affecting the F&B business in China. So now this is Starbucks financial year 2020 financials, and you can see that from September 2019 to September 2020, the company actually opened an addition of 581 stores, bringing their total stores to 4,704. And if you look here, right, here is the China fiscal year ended, the net revenue. Despite opening more stores in China for 2020, actually their net revenue actually went down from 2.87 billion to 2.58 billion. So from here we can actually have an idea that not just Starbucks, I'm sure everybody's affected, and so for Luckin as well, that their company performance will not be as good as 2019. So for Luckin management, if they are thinking of coming to the market to release, right, do you think that they will come back at the end of sometime this year and give us the 2020 financials and sell us this financial to get us to buy their shares when they are making losses? My personal view is that probably not. My view is that they will probably wait until their 2021 year-end results to be published to show very strong growth and even possibility of net profit. They are not making losses before they release, and that will give them an edge over their competitors. So I go through some of my views, which is what are the consideration that I think that the Luckin Coffee management will make before releasing, which is the market sentiments, investor sentiment, and having a good story to sell. So if they were to use their 2021 year-end financials, right, the earliest that they can look into releasing into the market will be mid 2022. So anyway, these are just my opinion. So if you have liked what I have shared, I appreciate if you can subscribe and like to my channel. So alright, that being said, I think we can also look at the chart of Luckin Coffee, and let's see how has the company shares has been performing. So now this is the Luckin Coffee chart, and okay, you can see that here, right, the company actually went parabolic. So this around this period was the time in June, whereby they released their 2019 financials, and then subsequently the share price just went all the way up from around $9.60 all the way to $15.60, and it pulled back, and then it tried to rally again, and then it closed lower at $13.17. So just looking at this chart, it can either consolidate around this range, push up higher, or it can actually go down lower. But my take is based on what I have shared earlier, that all the market sentiments and all the investor sentiment, all the negativity towards China stocks, and I personally don't think that it's going to push up higher. I think it will actually backtest and come back down. So there's also another negative news regarding Luckin Coffee. Let me share it with you. So this is an email that I have received from TD. I do have some stocks in Luckin Coffee, and I bought them when they were $5, and I accumulated until they were at $8, and I sell off some 1/3 of my positions when they were around $15. So I received this email from TD citing that the SEC is going to look into regulating the more regulations into the OTC stocks. And what this means is that if Luckin Coffee does not publish its 2020 financials, then it will be impossible for us to actually buy more stocks, and that we can only liquidate these shares. So yeah, so this portion is saying that you may want to place trades to liquidate this security now, and they cannot guarantee that in the future there will be sufficient liquidity to close these positions. So I think we won't know when Luckin release its financials, and for me, right, I think that the current market sentiment is actually quite negative for Luckin Coffee, and so for me, I probably will not be buying Luckin Coffee at around this price, and given all the market volatility with the Chinese stocks, probably if it goes down significantly lower, around $8, same as what the founders are buying in, I can consider looking into buying more of Luckin. But also another consideration is, if they do release, do you think they will release still in Nasdaq, or in Hong Kong or in Shanghai? Because given all the trade situation, there is a very high possibility that they might actually stay OTC in the US stock market, and they may look into releasing into Shanghai Stock Exchange or the Hong Kong Stock Exchange. So anyway, these are just some of my views about Luckin Coffee, and I do hope you can take all this into consideration. Maybe you have some other views that I have not thought about. If you can leave me a comment to share with me your opinions and your views, that will also help me formulate more ideas about Luckin, then that will be really, really good. And if you like what I have shared today, you can give me a like and subscribe to my channel. Thank you very, very much.